So without further ado, we're going to get things going, and we start every year with the awarding of the Dow Carnahan Media Award. This is an award we give to a member, or in this case, members of the media, for a long history of coverage and support of PAC athletics. It's named for Dow Carnahan, and if you didn't know Dow, you really missed out. Dow was the longtime voice of St. Vincent Bearcat athletics right here in Latrobe. Was also involved in high schools and racing and another number of other areas around the Pittsburgh region. And as good of a broadcaster as Dow was, he was an even nicer and kinder person. And he was a tremendous ambassador. He left us too soon, and we miss him dearly. But the one thing we feel that we could do is to honor him annually with this award. And so to help me do that and to introduce this year's Dow Carnahan Media Award winners, I'd like to bring up with me the Director of Athletics at Washington and Jefferson College, Mr. Scott McGinnis.
Thanks, Joe. First, I would like to wish all of our football student athletes and coaches in the room today good luck on the 2023 season. When I pulled in this morning, the first person I saw was Jake Pugh, our quarterback, and put a smile on my face. He looks great. He's going to have a great year. He's a great leader for us, and we're really happy that he's representing Washington and Jefferson College today. But it is a great honor for me to talk about the WJPA radio duo of Bob Gregg and Mark Uriah. The 2023 season will be the 40th season that they are broadcasting W&J football to listeners in Washington County and all across Pennsylvania. We joke sometimes that we've never had a losing season in football with Bob and Mark broadcasting games, and I'm really starting to believe that they have something to do with it. So they might not be able to stop doing this for the next 40 years. But I've known Bob and Mark for the last 20 years. I've sat in the back seat during road trips when Bob's lead foot was leading us from city to city. We've shared a lot of meals together. We've shared a ton of laughs together. I remember when St. Vincent joined the PAC, one of the first things that Bob and Mark told me when we were traveling out here to St. Vincent for a football game was how much they respected Dow Carnahan and the work that he did, not only at St. Vincent College, but with Latrobe High School as well. So I know that this is a great honor for them to receive an award named after Dow. Bob and Mark were there when W&J won our first NCAA playoff game in 1984 in Ashland, Virginia. They were there in 1992 and somehow at that time provided an amazing post-game show after a national semifinal victory over Rowan. Very, very good memories for so many people at W&J. That victory led W&J to our first Stag Bowl appearance, and they were there for two Stag Bowl appearances and broadcasting those games to all the fans. This was all before the internet existed and streams were available. If you wanted to follow W&J football, there was one way to do it for many, many years, and that was through Bob and Mark and their professionalism and the great work that they did with WJPA. The one thing that you can always get from a WJPA broadcast with Bob and Mark is a fair description of the game. That is something that they pride themselves on. There's no doubt that in the back of their mind, and I think they're rooting for W&J a little bit always because they're broadcasting W&J, but they're going to give you a fair description of the game and tell you exactly what is happening, whether it's good for W&J, whether it's bad for W&J or indifferent. They do a great job with that. Also, they take great pride in the pregame show. They have interviewed so many coaches and student athletes through the years, and giving them that experience, especially at the Division III level, for a commercial broadcast station is something that's been very important to us for 40 years now. Mark handles the interviewing of our student athletes. He asks them about the game, but he also asks them about their families. He asks them about their futures. He asks them about their academics. And so it's always a great joy to listen to the pregame show as well. When John Luckhart, our former coach, was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame last year, there was only one man who I thought could do that ceremony justice on our campus when we had a celebration for Coach Luckhart, and that was Bob Gregg. And he did it, and it was a wonderful ceremony. He's the man that knows the history of W&J football more than anybody, especially these last 40 years. Mark and Bob, their voices are synonymous with W&J football, but also high school sports in Western Pennsylvania. I've been in a car listening to Mark do play-by-play of a wrestling tournament, and somehow it made sense. I have no idea how he does it, but like he does a great job with it. And Bob has traveled with us, not just for WJ football, but he's traveled to Wisconsin and Iowa to broadcast WJ baseball and the College World Series. And they're both very dedicated to promoting WJ and Division III athletics within the PAC. They're both extremely knowledgeable. They've taught me a lot through the years, probably more than they realize. They are prepared. They are professional. And at WJ, we're extremely lucky to have them part of our football family for this long. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, Bob, for everything you've done for us and WJ College. And congratulations as recipients of the 2023 Dow Carnahan Media Award. Mark. Congratulations. Thanks. Put it right here. Thank you.
First of all, thank you, Scott, for the kind words. I'm honored to receive this award, of course, with my longtime partner, for a number of reasons, not the least of which is having known Dow a little bit and gotten to know him over the years. Just a guy I genuinely liked and as a person, in addition to his work as a broadcaster. So to receive this award with his name on it means a lot. In addition to, thinking about 40 years plus of doing this, I started out at 25 and ready to set the world on fire, and now I find myself navigating Medicare Part B and, trying to get a hip replacement. So in the interim, obviously, we've had some great moments, and I could go on and on about games and plays and road trips and all the fun that we've had in addition to the games. But I think it's more about the relationships that I have formed over these 40 years. Coach Sirianni, who's now been here for more than half of those 40 years, I owe him a great deal of thanks just for the access that he provides us and the information that he provides us. And before him, Coach Banaszak, and before him, Coach Lockhart. Those relationships were more than your typical head coach media member relationship, and I cherish those. And they've certainly done a lot to help us do what we do. And in addition to the coaches, obviously, athletic directors, sports information directors, other media members who we travel in the same circles and have for all these years. Press box staff who, oftentimes don't change, and you see the same people every other year when you go to their particular school. So it's been a great ride, and it's been a lot of fun. And when you love something, you don't really think about, as the years go by, it's year 10, 15, 20, whatever it may be. You just do it because you love it, and you love college football. And that goes back to when I was young as a Pitt season ticket holder, and just going to college football games every Saturday. And it's just part of who I am, that's for sure. And again, it's been a great ride. As I said, those relationships mean a lot. And wins and losses, they're meaningful. Obviously, more meaningful to coaches and players. You dedicate your lives to this, and I certainly appreciate that. And again, while we are W&J broadcasters, I do want to say that all the other schools in the PAC, we respect good football, we respect good coaching, and we certainly want to credit it when we see it. So it's not. Scott was right. We certainly root for W&J. There's no question about it. But we also recognize, I think you always want to recognize the opposition and what they do, and when they do well, that it deserves to be mentioned just as much. So that's a big part of the job, and I wouldn't feel right if I just came up here and talked about W&J. All the other schools, we appreciate what you do, the effort that you put in, and the product that we see on Saturdays. Thank you again for this award. It means a great deal to me, and another person I need to thank will speak next, my longtime partner, Bob Gregg, who has taught me a great deal over the last 40 years. Thank you very much.
First of all, Joe, you may want to check with the President's Council. I am not a college graduate, so I don't know if the conference is right to give me this award. I'm a poorer man today because my parents gave lots of money to Geneva College back in the day after my baseball dreams blew up in Coral Gables about 100 years ago, it seems. But somewhere in the middle of my junior year at Geneva, the decision was made that I was working full-time and going to school full-time, 65 miles apart, and the decision I made was that I'm doing already what I'm going to school for. I think I'll just do the work thing, and there have been 2 times since then that I've regretted that decision. Jobs that I applied for wanted to see that piece of paper, and they overlooked the 30-plus years of experience that I had at that point. I didn't really understand that, but then was grateful that I didn't get those jobs, because if they couldn't see beyond that piece of paper, I probably didn't want to work there anyway. Dow was a colleague. We were friendly. I wouldn't say we were friends, but we certainly interacted regularly. We shared info. We would share equipment. We would share supplies and access and information. We were friendly, but Dow was genuinely a good man, and to receive this award with his name on it is truly an honor. W&J and WJPA go back over 80 years. In fact, the college was the impetus for the Washington Broadcasting Company's call letters. Obviously, if you understand FCC rules, any station east of the Mississippi had a W to start their call letters, with the exception of KDKA and KQV, who showed up before the FCC got their fingers on all of that in a heavy-handed way. Only government would have stations east of the Mississippi use a W for their call letters, but somebody smarter than I, maybe with a college degree, can explain why that would be. But in filling out their application for call letters, there were several members of the company ownership that had graduated from W&J, and they thought, well, it has to be a W. W&J is right out our back window, and we're in Pennsylvania, and that was the impetus for WJPA. I can't tell you how many people think we're either owned by or we work for the college, and we don't. As Scott indicated and Mark reiterated, we are rooters. I don't shy away from that at all, but I am not a homer. Every other team, whether it's in college football or baseball or basketball or wrestling or whatever sport, the other teams are going to get a fair shake, and you would be hard-pressed to find someone who would say that's not accurate. The listeners from that school may know that Mark and I wanted W&J to win, but their kids got a fair shake in the broadcast. And I've always been proud to be a rooter, not a homer. All these years that Mark and I have worked together, we've had just 3 head coaches at W&J football, much like the Steelers over that same time frame. John Luckhart, John Banaszak, and Mike Sirianni. I was blessed in the 80s and 90s to learn football. I never played the game. I was in football at halftime, wearing my band uniform and playing a great big drum. I never played football other than stuff in the backyard. But I learned football sitting in film sessions with John Luckhart and Guy Montecalvo. There are plays that happen for both of those teams that I probably saw 30 times within about a 4-minute window as it went forward, backward, forward, backward. Watch this, Bobby. Watch this. You see what happened? What's going on? I have no idea what I'm looking for. They were both quick to point out what I should have been looking for, and I learned the game that way. I'm very pleased to have sat under their film sessions. I appreciate Scott taking note that the last time W&J had a non-winning season, Mark and I weren't the broadcast crew. It's we have nothing to do with that, nothing at all. I've never tackled a guy breaking away for a touchdown, and I've never caught a touchdown pass, and I'm not likely to at this point. But we've had a lot of fun describing those thrills of victory and agonies of defeat, and there have been enough of both. During that time of 3 head coaches, I've had one partner, one regular broadcast partner over that entire time. I've had pinch hitters. John Sacco's here today. George Lammy. Bill Duquette has sat in that other chair a couple of times. But there's been one partner, and I am honored to have spent these 40 years with you by my side. As you've reminded me in week 2 that it's too early to look at the standings. When we get a win by a point on a lucky play at the end, that it's still a win, and don't lose sight of that. You know, you're not going to blow everybody out, and to keep me in check through all of that. Some of you may not know that Mark has told us that this is it. This is number 40, and this is the he's going to hate me. This is the start of the Mark Uriah farewell tour for sports work. And he has decided that at the end of this upcoming year, both in high school and in college, that this is going to be it. We've seen a lot of things. We saw Pat Herr block that punt on a day when I had 2 partners in the booth, and at one point in the 3rd quarter, when things weren't going well at Randolph-Macon, there was one of us talking. And the boss is paying 3 of us, and I reminded the other 2, like, you're getting paid just like me, start talking. A little later on, we had 4 or 5 people in the booth on the broadcast when Buzzy Scott, W&J's assistant, who was right next to us, just absolutely lost his mind when Pat Herr blocked that punt, and W&J beat Randolph-Macon minutes later. We shared a phone. I mean, literally an old spring cord phone, as we're calling a game at Case Western Reserve back in the day when their football stadium was right across from a 25,000-watt AM station that decided it was going to get all over our regular broadcast equipment that we couldn't use. So we're calling a game doing this, passing the phone back and forth. We traveled through snow, and we traveled to Orlando for the Stag Bowl, and I had a wonderful time doing that. The Leadfoot comment, I resemble that remark. If you're going to be on the highway and I'm also going to be there, don't be in front of me. If you're in the left-hand lane, please move over. I will be passing you shortly, and I would just as soon. Well, we've traveled thousands and thousands of miles over the years to have a lot of great times and to be able to share that. And radio coverage is the same as it always was. My job and Mark's job is to tell people listening at home what they can't see. I'm not a fan of video or television. My gifts are to communicate and to paint a picture. And so I have the opportunity to do that on Friday nights and Saturdays in football season, and then in basketball and wrestling. And I will tell you that I am absolutely honored that we've spent the last 39 seasons together, and I look forward to number 40 coming up. Thank you, Mark. Thank you all.